Before we get started, subscribe to my channel. I was just Googling around. I was off work today and I was just looking at the different generations. So I went to Wikipedia and did a little research. And I'm going to share this information with you guys. You know, over here, you see every generation right here. I got the greatest generation, the silent generation, the boomers, the Generation X, the millennials, the Gen Z, and the new generation now is Generation Alpha. So let's talk about the lost generation. Lost generation it's not on this list over here. So you see what year they was born between 1883 and 1900. So that put them in the ages of 124 through 141. They call that the lost generation, the World War I generation. Then you got the next generation following that. It's from 1901 to 1927. So they're from the ages of 97 to 123. They call that the greatest generation, also known as the GI generation. Okay, following that generation was born through the year of 1928 through 1945. They call that the silent generation. You know, my dad was born in 1931, so he was in a silent generation. And he was a quiet person. He didn't talk to us much, but he worked. He worked all the time, worked hard, and taught us how to work. And it says this, they was in the Great Depression in 1930s and World War II in the early mid-1940s. So then you had the baby boomers. And I got a big family. It was 14 of us. So I got some brothers and sisters that was born in this baby boomers year, the year 1946 to 1964, baby boomers. So they would be from the age of 60 to 78, often shorter as boomers, and they was raised by the generation, the silent generation, and following them was the Generation X. You know, this generation, the baby boomers, was hard on education, hard work. And they say, hey, when you find your good job, you stay with it. And then when you die, you enjoy your time in heaven. Those are the baby boomers. They're stuck in their ways and they don't change often. But then you have my generation is the Generation X. You know, you look in here and you notice that the Generation X is in the middle of all of this. And I always tell people this is the dangerous generation, not to people, but to the government. Because we was raised during the time we was taught by the baby boomers and hard work and different things. I say we're kind of like chameleons. We can change with the environment. I'm going to let this dude explain to you a little bit, and then we'll continue with the other generations.
Let's talk a little bit about Generation X, the generation so terrifying they couldn't even give it a fucking name. So Gen Xers were raised in a very interesting period of time. They were raised by baby boomers, so they knew a very older and maybe kind of feral way to exist and live their life. But then they were also old enough, so when the internet and a lot of new technology started coming out, they also knew a lot more. So they had this kind of ability to cherry pick the best traits of baby boomers and millennials, which makes them some of the most dangerous fucking people in the world. Most of the Gen Xers I knew either went to the military, went to rehab, or went to jail. That means the ones that are left are fucking survivors.
Exactly.
So for as many changes in music and style and culture that you think you've been through, in the last 50 years, they've been through the most. Also, mental illness wasn't trendy back then. So any kind of mental illness that they had, they usually didn't get any treatment for it. So they had to learn how to cope with it themselves. Medications weren't as delicate or as effective back then. And that leaves you with some very fucking interesting people. Get yourself a Gen X friend, but they'll probably just tell you to fuck off.
They didn't know how to give a name for us right here. You know, and the Generation X, like I said, is between the ages of 44 through 59. They was born in the year of 1965 through 1980. Then you have the millennials, Generation Y. And I call the millennials the smart generation. They don't stick to one job a long time. They move. They try to create businesses. I guess they learned from us. Like my daughter, she probably seen me work for a company all my life, and then she seen at one time after working there for 27 years, they said we don't need you no more and let me go. So she found out, hey, these guys are just numbers. So I'm gonna create a job. I'm gonna jump around. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna create businesses. So this millennial, that's I think they're a smart generation of people, uh, and we back them too, and that's a good thing. The Generation X, we was out the house at 18, but we give our millennials a little bit more time because we know how tough it was to get out the house at the age of 18 and try to find a job, and you had to take the first thing that you come across. But now and then you got this Generation Z, sometimes known as Zoomers. So they was born the year of 1997 to 2011, and they're from the ages of 13 to 27. So this group right here is the Generation Z. I don't know much about them, but they're different. Maybe somebody can explain them to me. But it's a different kind of generation. And then you have the this last generation right here, born in 2012 into present. They call them Generation Alpha. I guess Alpha is to start over again. But I'm gonna let you listen to this speech this guy gave right here, and you tell me what you think about it.
I had a conversation with a friend one day, and we was talking about family and life, and I asked him, how do you see your kid's future? And he said to me, my grandfather walked 10 miles to work every day. My father walked 5. I'm driving a Cadillac. My son is in a Mercedes. He said my grandson will be in a Ferrari. But he said my great-grandson will be walking again. So I asked him, I said, well, why is that? And he said to me, tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times. He said to me, many will not understand, but you have to raise warriors.